Today I will tell a tragedy in the Hargan family home. A family known to be very wealthy, who showed the cruelty of a child to her own mother. Located in the state of Virginia, United States, claims actually not a city, but a community in Fairfax which is on the banks of the Potomac River, near the capital Washington, D.C., consisting of rich people who live there. It is reported that McLean is one of the richest places in the United States, with fantastically valuable houses. Yes, with many zeros behind the states. With fantastically valuable houses. Yes, with many zeros behind the number one who once lived there is called the Hargan family, consisting of Pamela Hargan and her 3 daughters. Megan is the first child, Ashley is the second child, and Helen is the youngest. Pamela Hargan is a very wealthy millionaire mother. 20 years earlier, Pamela divorced her husband, while still living in a small town in Illinois, so that Pamela had to work all day, for her 3 daughters in her career. She succeeded so quickly, becoming a highly respected human resources executive, and became one of the contractors for the large company, SAIC. Pamela travels frequently for her work, with a very high salary, and often took her 3 daughters on vacation. Pamela also bought a house in McLean worth $1.3 million. Actually, from the outside, Pamela's relationship with her 3 daughters is worth imitating, but this is where everyone misjudges everything. It was revealed when Pamela was killed in her home in 2017. Pamela officially retired from her job at the age of 63. In that very large old house, Pamela apparently did not live alone. But she lived with her eldest child Megan and Megan's daughter, who was 7 years old at that time, or you could say Pamela's granddaughter. It is said that Megan is unemployed, so she has been living with her mother for the past 2 years, and relies on her mother's money to meet her needs and her little daughter. Actually, Megan, who was 37 years old at that time, was married to a man. But they live separately, but her husband lives in another state, West Virginia. Her sister, Ashley, works and lives in another city, while Helen, the youngest, lives in Dallas, Texas, and had just graduated from Southern Methodist University. With a master's degree, Helen has an ambition to follow in her mother's footsteps as a company contractor consultant. Everything is clearly stated in a CV that will be used to apply for a job. Helen also plans to live in Dallas and is building a house to live in with her fiancé named Carlos, which construction of the house is also funded by her mother. But while Helen is building her house in Dallas, Pamela turns out to invite Helen to return to her house in McLean, Virginia. Her mother argued that her house was too big to be occupied by only 3 people, namely Pamela, Megan, and Megan's daughter. Until finally in early 2017, Helen returned to her mother's house and settled there.
Good morning. Thank you for calling Capital One Bank. Would you tell me your name, please?
Pamela Hargan.
What can I do for you today?
I was told that I could do a wire transfer.
Oh, you're going to buy a house?
For my daughter, yes.
I understand you want to complete a wire transfer with us today?
Yes,
that wire...
they need it today.
That day, a bank where Pamela saved received a call from Pamela, to transfer her money of $422,000 to buy her child a house, but on the same day the bank called Pamela again to confirm her request. And this is what happened.
Hi, who am I speaking to?
Who am I speaking to?
My name is Jeff with Capital One.
Okay, this is Pamela Hargan.
Somebody tried to do a wire out of your account for $400,000.
What? I did not do that.
Yes, there was a confusion between the two calls, which seemed as if that day someone tried to pretend to be Pamela, and tried to cash her money. But exactly the day after Pamela was found dead.
Fairfax County Police and Fire, how may I assist you?
Yes, I need an emergency. My girlfriend told me that her sister killed her mom, and now my girlfriend won't answer her phone, and so...
She said she killed her mom?
No, she said her sister killed her mom.
Girlfriend at home right now?
Well, that's the thing. She won't answer her phone, and I'm thinking maybe something bad happened to her too, because her sister's crazy.
This is Carlos, a man who lives in Texas who reported that his girlfriend named Helen had just called and said that her mother had died, killed by her sister. But Helen also did not say which sister killed her mother. And Helen could not be contacted again after that. Carlos, who immediately called Megan, Helen's sister, got information that Megan and her child were on their way home from Maryland to her house, while Ashley was still in another city. The police who came there found Pamela dead in the laundry room with a gunshot wound to her head, while Helen, the only person in the house, also died in the upstairs bathroom, in a sitting position with a gunshot wound to her head. In Helen's arm was a long rifle that was suspected of being used to kill her mother. The police reported that the tragedy was a murder, where Helen killed her mother first and then ended her own life. At least that's what the police told the media and all residents. There were no traces of the killer. There was no other person's DNA. No other person's fingerprints on the rifle, except Helen's fingerprints. After conducting an in-depth investigation and forensic tests and an autopsy, the police changed their minds. Initially, they thought that Helen killed her mother and then did the same thing to herself. Now the police confirm that the tragedy was a double murder, because from the autopsy results, the gunshot wound to Helen's body, the bullet came from the head towards her neck, which was very unlikely for Helen to put the muzzle of the rifle above her head, then pull the trigger from above. While when demonstrated, Helen's hand did not even touch the trigger.
What happened? She had a gunshot wound on the pierced seesaw. I'm really sorry. This isn't real. This is not real. Oh God, what are we going to do?
After the shooting, Megan was taken to the police station for questioning for 2 consecutive days. Yes. In her statement, Megan claimed that Helen was a naughty and stubborn girl, who always fought with her mother. The morning before the murder, Pamela stopped financing the construction of Helen's house, because Pamela did not want Carlos to live in Helen's new house, which caused a big fight. That day, Megan also admitted that that day, Pamela planned to buy a house for Megan and her husband in West Virginia, so that Megan could live with her husband. However, Pamela's sister, Tamara, admitted that it was impossible for Pamela to buy a house for Megan. Tamara said that there was a big gap in the relationship between Pamela and Megan. Tamara also said that Megan really hated her sister, Helen. Although Megan and Helen were 14 years apart in age, and Megan also raised Helen since she was little, while her mother was working. But Megan and Helen often fought, when Helen was built a house by her mother. This raised the police's suspicion that Megan was the perpetrator. When the police dug up more information related to the price of the house that Pamela would buy for Megan, Megan said that the house was worth $422,000, or the same amount as the amount that the fake caller would disburse. The police also found that on the day of the murder, someone tried to hack Pamela's bank account to transfer $422,000 to Megan's account. The perpetrator entered the password repeatedly but failed. Until finally the perpetrator gave up and called the bank. Here the police seem to have been able to put together a piece of the story, which can reveal the double murder of mother and daughter in her house. The police directed their attention to Megan, Pamela's eldest daughter, as the killer of her mother and sister. Carlos, who was also questioned by the police, told the police. When Helen called Carlos that her sister had killed her mother, Helen saw her sister trying to transfer money from her mother's account. Carlos also told Helen to get out of there and call the police. But Helen refused to get out of there, because she was afraid that her 7-year-old nephew, who was also in the house, would also be a victim. After a year of police investigating the murder of Pamela and Helen, without finding evidence of murder at the scene, finally, on November 9, 2018, Megan Hargan was officially arrested by the police for the murder of Pamela and Helen and staged the murder to make it look like Helen killed her mother and ended her own life. Megan was detained for 5 years and finally her first trial was held in early 2022, where Megan was accused of killing her mother because she was jealous of seeing Helen, her sister she hated the most, being built a house by her mother. And most likely Megan also wanted to buy a house but was not funded by her mother. It is also known that since Helen moved to her mother's house, Megan did not like Helen to come home. They continued to fight every day, because of Megan's hatred for her sister. And culminating on July 14, 2017, Megan allegedly tried to hack her mother's bank account and called the bank pretending to be Pamela. She also forced her mother to buy a house, because that day her house had to be paid off. When her mother refused, she killed her mother. That's what Helen saw. And Megan, who hated Helen so much, also killed her, by telling Helen to sit on the bathroom floor, and Megan shot her in the head from above. In her trial, Megan repeatedly denied the charges and pleaded not guilty, but the judge still believed in the evidence found by the police, that there were a number of money transfer attempts at the bank, and evidence of Megan calling the bank. In the end, the judge sentenced Megan to 2 life sentences at the trial in late October 2022. From this case, even though Megan pleaded not guilty, her motive was clear: greed, hatred and jealousy had taken over Megan, an older sister who for years helped her mother raise her younger sister who was 14 years younger. Hopefully the traits that Megan has are not in us. That's the end of this story. Thank you for watching the true story video from Shonia Studio. See you in other stories. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Thank you.